Let me welcome you to the next part of our devotional journey, a meditation of Psalm 16. Today, we're going to be picking up in verse 6. Let's read that together first. It says, "The lines have fallen to me in pleasant places. Indeed, my heritage is beautiful to me." In verse 5, David speaks of his portion. Several of the modern translations use the word inheritance, highlighting what I mentioned last week, that this is a reference to when the promised land was divided among the Hebrew tribes, given each a portion or an inheritance, a portion of land that would be handed down from generation to generation to generation. In verse 6, then, you can see this theme continues as the word lines that's used there is a reference to a method of measuring and dividing land. It's what we would call surveying property today. The idea is this: as David now looks out on the expanse of his life and evaluates all that's befallen him, what he calls his lot, in verse 5, he says, "It is pleasant. My heritage is beautiful to me." He's taking stock of all that has happened and putting it together. So a couple of points I'd like to make today. First, this is a statement of sincere contentment. Let's put verse 5 and 6 together in our own words. "The Lord Yahweh is what I have. He holds my lot," or my life, "and I'm pleased and cherish it." Basically, David's saying, I have the Lord and I'm content. David Guzik, a commentator I often read, says, "A mark of our age, since the baby boom generation and on, is discontentment, boredom, and restlessness. We are generations with short attention spans, the constant need for excitement and adrenaline rushes, with a 24-hour day entertainment mentality." He says we need to know this type of contentment, which David was expressing in Psalm 16. And I think I agree. We see this same type of contentment in Jesus when he says, "For I've come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me." John 6:38. Jesus' life was a life of contentment in God. The second point is, I'd like to point out that pleasant lines doesn't mean trouble-free. When you evaluate a piece of land, you look at the big picture and not just the details. There may be a good spring of water in one part and a briar patch in another. The soil may be fertile, but it also may be filled with rocks. You may have many good trees, even fruit trees on the land, but the terrain itself is maybe hilly or steep. You take the good and the bad, and then you make the most out of what you have. You take advantage of the benefits and try to overcome the difficulties that a property presents to you. This is life. David's life was not all blessing and zero struggles. But as he starts to take stock of the expanse of his life, as he looks and sees all that it has encompassed, its overall worth, maybe it is here in these two verses that he sums up the evaluation of his life. That all that has occurred to him over the years of his life, the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs, the victories and the defeats, the joy and the sadness. Maybe it's all brought him to where he understands, I have God, he has me, and with that, I am content. This is a good life. If we can reach that conclusion, it can truly be said of life that it was a blessed life, a life worth living. If we can get to that place, we're satisfied with having God and God having us. Which brings me to my third point. Our inheritance is not here, that is, of this existence. It is possible that the future hope of eternity is the basis for David's own contentment with his life. In Acts chapter 2, verses 31 through 35, Peter explains that David was looking forward to the Messiah's resurrection and eventual victory over the powers of evil. Maybe when he speaks of the inheritance that is so beautiful to him in these verses, he's referring to what is yet to come, the portion that is not of this world. In John 14, verse 3, Jesus says, "If I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also." The inheritance of the Jesus follower is not in this life at all. So our evaluation has to move well beyond the simple events, either positive or negative, of this temporary existence. We have to view life as the faithful did in Hebrews chapter 11, where they move through life's mountains and valleys looking to a new country, not of this world. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 19, "If in Christ we have hope in this life only, we are people most to be pitied." So never evaluate your life without considering your true inheritance that is yet to be received. It is only when we view this very large picture and see the astonishing hope that is yet to come that the truest contentment with this life can be found. So let me offer a couple of action steps for you to think about and contemplating this week. 1, reflect on your life. Are you content? Here's some questions you can ask to maybe find out. Do you think more about what you lack or want than what you have? Are you grateful for the good and the bad? And 3, if all you have is your faith, is that enough? Second step, find an example for encouragement. I'd like for you to read Hebrews chapter 11 through chapter 12, verse 3, concentrating on verses 13 and 16 of chapter 11. Which one of the faithful mentioned is your favorite? What was their life like? What were their ups and downs? And how did their faith in a future inheritance affect their lives? Step 3, anticipate what is yet to come. Read Revelations chapter 21 through 22. What do you think heaven may be like? Would you consider also watching The Real Heaven, What the Bible Actually Says by Chip Ingram on RightNow Media? I'll try to include a link down below. Now, if you don't have access to RightNow Media, let me know, and First Baptist Church Clarion will provide it for you for free. So just let me know. It's just a simple link. Until next week, as we contemplate the goodness of God and evaluate our lives, may we find contentment in knowing we have God and God has us.